Here we've got an E60 M5 which has come into Redish Motorsport for the preventative work for the Conrod Bearing shell replacement and also bolts. So just at the start of the process when the cars come in, we're going to start getting the under trays off so we can take the front subframe off. Customer's chosen BE bearings, which are here from America, and we're going to be going with the bolts as well. So we'll get started and strip this car down. We've started taking the front suspension apart and we disconnected the steering system via the steering rack, so not to disturb the wheel alignment on the threaded connections. Got the front arms off and everything's laid nicely against microfiber cloths, so not to touch any alloy wheels. Front arms are disconnected, the steering, the xenon level sensor system, the Vanos pressure accumulator has just been disconnected, so the power steering hoses and various other, like the oil pumps on the side of the sump. And now we're just going to be getting ready to put the load level system on the engine to support that whilst we disconnect the front subframe next. So here's all the parts laid out for the E60 M5 that we're doing the Conrod bearings on as a preventative measure. The only thing we haven't got in this video is the Castrol engine oil, which is 1060. So just start with, I've basically grouped them into areas. So this is the sort of items, the basic items that you need to do the Conrod bearing shells. It'd be obviously engine oil, Genuine BMW filter kit, sump gasket, oil pickup pipe O-ring, and then your bearings of choice. And this is BE bearings, the American brand, BE bearings, plus the BMW Conrod bolts. And then from there you've then got other options, and this customer is going quite detailed, having nearly all the things done that you could do, nearly. So it's having the Vanos High Pressure Pipe, the internal pipe, plus the banjo bolt and the top O-ring. And then we've got spare chain tensioner items, so it's the spring, the sleeve and the little disc which the spring sits in. Then we've got some upgraded chain tensioner items. This is the oil pump chain, the main oil pump chain, which is secondary driven by a chain, and these are the tensioners and the bushes, which is the upgraded version. Then we've got oil spray nozzles. There's an upgraded version of these now. There should be 5 of them, but 2 are on back order in Germany. So there's 3 pictured here and 2 more to arrive. This is the new style piston squirters. And then also an option to change for relatively small money the oil filter housing, because on the V10 it sits upside down. So whenever you get any sort of bearing material or debris, it always collects in the bottom on the V10. So for about another £35, it's always good to change that to save any particles being stuck anywhere in that system. Then this customer is also specifying a dual drained sump. So it's the front sump bolt is in addition, because it's currently only got the single one. So we need a couple of items for that. We need both oil drain plugs, the oil level sensor O-ring, copper washers for those, and also the side O-rings for the oil pumps on the side of the sump. And then lastly, this is a little bit more expensive, this version, but if you're fairly stripped on the bottom of the engine, it's not much more to upgrade the sprocket wheel for the Vanos High Pressure Pump, and it's because it's got longer teeth, and also in turn you have to then change the end of the crankshaft driven gear as well, because they mesh together. They're different shaped teeth, they're longer, they've got better engagement. So with that, there's a few items. You need a center bolt for the sprocket, you need the vibration damper stretch bolts, which you have to take off to release the timing case, behind the timing case, which is how you release this gear wheel. Got some new bolts for the belt driven section that bolts through the vibration damper, and then we've got a front crankshaft oil seal which you need to replace as well. We've got all the BMW Special Tools here to do all this, specifically setting the backlash between the Vanos High Pressure Pump gear wheel and the crankshaft gear wheel. That's quite specific. There's a few other tools for removing the front crank seal nicely without damaging it, and also installing a new one. We'll try and get those videoed in this process, but that's all the parts there. Majority of them are genuine BMW, apart from the Conrod bearings, which are BE. So the subframe's now off, and we've also got the sump off. The engine supported on our special tools, and we get the first look inside the bottom of the engine. So this is the Vanos High Pressure Pump, directly driven by gear wheel, straight off the front of the crankshaft gear wheel, and then it's chain driven across to the main engine oil pump. And these are the two pickup pipe. We've got a pickup pipe and a return pipe. And now you can see up into the engine block, you can see the pistons in the distance, the connecting rods here, and these are the Conrod bolts, and the bearings are inside, wrapped around, well they're actually sat in the Conrod and Conrod cap, but they're actually designed to sit around the crankshaft journal, and they float on a film of oil. This is a nice view of the Conrod just here, and looking up to see the piston, and also see the oil piston squirters up in the distance, which we're going to be changing for the new design on this job as well. So here we are on position number 6, and we're just using the plastic gauge system as we do on all the old bearing shells, and we'll be doing this on the new one as well. And we've got a plastic gauge squash on the journal, and we're seeing a clearance of between 0.038 to 0.050, which is consistent with position 1 to position 6 so far as we've been working down the engine. So that's what they look like with the crankshaft, Conrod cap removed. You can just see the Conrod in the distance behind there, and there's one of the Conrods. This is position 5 that we've done already. There's the journal in view, and the pink is the plastic gauge, and this is basically just a sanity check to make sure that the new bearings and the old bearings are okay and within a clearance tolerance, so there's nothing too tight or too loose before it all goes back together. You'd naturally assume that they'd all be fine because the car was running and obviously the bearings are brand new, but it's always nice to double check. You don't want to risk just guessing or putting them in fast, because we just never know. You never know. We've seen them before where we put them in and a plastic gauge check has shown 0.076, which is outside of BMW's tolerance, and if you'd have run that, there's also risk that there was too much clearance there, and you never know what happens. So that's why we always do our plastic gauge checking on the old shell clearance and the new shell clearance. And then we record the data just to make sure we've got some quality control checking, and we check the old clearances versus the new clearances on the shells. So the old bearings were the BMW ones, which we need to mark down what part number they were, but being a 55 plate, I'd imagine they were the original style. And we're going for the BE bearings, and we've got a nice consistent new shell clearance of between 0.038 to 0.050 all the way across so far. That would say we're on position 6 now, which was cylinder 3 technically. I'm also just doing the 3-stage torque check, 620 newton meters and 130 degrees, and recording our finished data on that as well. So here's our old ones laid out, and these are in position numbers, not cylinder numbers, and we can put obviously these are the old bolts and old shells, so we can put them on it's not a dirty table, but it's not the clean table. Obviously a clean assembly is for the new items. So the upper parts of the shell are normally the worst stage, because that's the one that sees the downward stroke, and this is position number 2, and we've got copper showing on this one, and also position number 5 we've got copper showing on the upper part of the upper half of the shell as well. So we did order a few new things for this car because we were doing the Vanos High Pressure Pipe, and where we take the Vanos pump off to get those pipes in nicely, we expected, being a 55 plate car, to find the older style gear wheel and the older style oil pump chain tensioner and the bush. However, they've already been done. This is the new style system, the teeth, which I think came into effect in December 2005 from memory, and the upper one, chain tensioner, is different, along with the bush, or the sleeve, compared to the lower one. This one's definitely been done because it's a different colour to the other one, which is already on the oil pump, and the sleeve and the spring are different part numbers for the newer system, and they've been done. So it's quite possible that it's had a Vanos high pressure oil pump before. However, you can see slight markings where these bolts have been undone, so maybe it's just had the gear wheel. We're not quite sure, but we're still going to do the pipe as the customer would like that done as a definite, whilst we've got good access to the bottom of the engine. So what this video is saying is that we're not going to be using the gear wheel like we thought we needed, because it's already fitted correctly. So I'm now under the car, and we're just getting ready to send the Vanos high pressure pipe through the engine block. So it's just going to be coming down now, and I'm going to try and guide that into position. We've already got the Vanos high pressure pump removed to give better access, and whilst that's coming down, we can just talk about this bolt-on helical gear wheel, which is the drive for the Vanos high pressure pump, and that one I'm just trying to help ease the high pressure pipe coming down. There it goes. Needs a little bit of a twist. Just so it can come through, and here it is, down into position. So now that's in, we can get that roughly located at the top where it comes out of the engine block to the distribution piece, and then we'll get the Vanos high pressure pump located, and then finally the sealing rings and the banjo bolt can go through and connect that new high pressure internal pipe up. The high pressure oil pipe's now in the correct position. We've got the Vanos pump refitted with the chain correct and the tensioners in position, and now we've got the Genuine BMW Special Tools set up. This is to check the backlash, or actually set the backlash between the Vanos high pressure pump gear wheel and its driven wheel, which is on the end of the crankshaft. This is very important, and it's got to be between 0.06 of a millimetre and 0.08 of a millimetre. So Luke's just going to move or show us the depth that we've got set, which is 0.07 of a millimetre, which is absolutely perfect in the middle. So we've set that now, and now we can carry on with the rebuild. So this customer is also wanting the upgraded piston oil squirters, which sit up above the crankshaft on the underside of the engine block and squirt oil up onto the pistons of the opposing banks. So this one, which is in central, is just come out. I can now go over to the bench and see the old piston oil squirter versus the new one. So we'll put 5 of these new ones on with the new bolts as well. So just turning the engine over by hand. Now we've added the new piston oil squirter, and we've got one bolt in, and we're turning over so we can access the other bolt hole. Just thought I'd show you what it looks like with the crankshaft rotating, and position 9 and position 10 Conrods, and the pistons in the distance moving. And there we go, there's the new oil squirter in the distance, and we've got the one bolt in and torqued up, and now we've just got the access to put this other bolt in on the final position. Here's the dual oil drain plug sump. So it's got the additional front drain, which was fitted to later models. This is a 55 plate car, and it hasn't got the front one, it's just got the main one at the rear. So the customers managed to find a double drain one, and that's going to be what we're putting onto the car, with just some new oil pump O-rings, new drain plugs, and the oil level sensor O-ring as well. And there it is, all back together, finished after the BE bearing, Conrod bearing and the BMW bolts with those high pressure pipe that you saw us fit in earlier in the video. So we've done some running and heat cycling, checked over everything, no leaks, we're quite happy. It's had new power steering fluid, car's all ready to go, been cleaned in the engine bay, and that's a good success. And our customer's going to go and take that and put some miles on it gently, little load for the first 500 miles, and then that would count as a form of running in. And there's a successful V10 S65 Conrod bearing replacement at Redish Motorsport.